Hello and welcome. I'm going to be sharing about my experience solo traveling in Mexico. I went to one spot specifically called Puerto Vallarta, and but I'm also going to be sharing about the experience of getting to solo travel and selecting the destination in general, because I feel like there's an important aspect to talk about where there's this whole preparation. So if you're here to learn about solo traveling in general, this first section is for you. And then if you want to be learning more about Puerto Vallarta as a solo traveler, you're welcome to scroll ahead to that only. And I'm going to be sharing just from my perspective. I don't have all of the tips and tricks for like general travel to that area. It's really from my perspective. And who I am as a traveler as well, which is very unique to each person. Everyone travels in a different way, and my way is a little bit more free flowing with some research, a lot of like intuition, and sometimes a bit of trust without research. So I have a list of things that I'm going to be sharing about, so I might reference that. Um, but to begin, I wanted to share about the context to this trip. So I had been recently moved back to my home state to live with my parents and my sister, and had just left New York City and had started working at a local store that I had been working at in college too, so I was familiar with that. But yeah, the whole time I was also dreaming up what I wanted to be doing, because travel has been a really important part of my life and something that is my dream to be able to do as part of my career. So a couple places came to mind and a couple ideas came up. But finally, the one that stuck, that felt the most right in my heart, was to go to Mexico. And the process to get to that point of deciding and then also making it happen, because it's an investment of resources and money that could go to something else, but I like to live with what my heart is saying, and also investing in my well-being I know is so important, and this was something that I needed to do for myself, um, and to help my well-being and part of my like journey of growth. So that's like a bit of context to why I went. Also, I've never been to Mexico. Um, it also was winter and fall, and so I was really wanting to be somewhere warm and by a beach and to get my fill of sun. Um, I think I will always be doing that every year if I'm going to be in a cold climate, to at some point get somewhere warm to fill up my cup again before I go into the winter. Um, Yeah, so for solo travel in general, the preparation before going on the trip um, was a lot of navigating my like inner dialogue and my belief systems, and also trusting myself on the timing of things. I have the tendency to over research something when there's no purpose to it. I've done all the research I need to do, or also maybe it's not actually the time to make a decision on, for example, where to stay, but I'm still like over researching the places and options. So sometimes I'm like navigating tendencies of myself that are not actually productive or helpful to me, um, such as over researching. And then also things that I've noticed myself before a trip or some big like project or like endeavor is to you can easily sink into doubt and fear, and I think this comes up with any trip, and especially when you're going by yourself. And as a woman, there's so many things you can hear from other people, such as stories of like, you should be careful, maybe you shouldn't be staying by yourself. Just like a lot of fear from others, which is very valid, but at the same time not necessarily helpful to like navigate this on your own. And also, when we're in a fear state, we're gonna like attract that kind of experience and be constantly on the lookout for it in a way that's not necessarily like helpful to us. Also, when you're in that fear, fight, or flight state, you're not as able to make calm, rational, like grounded decisions when you're traveling or before you're traveling. Making decisions from a place of like fear or scarcity or like like quick decisions to just like get it done because you feel like uncertain, it may actually not be the best decision because it's coming from that place. So what's really been helpful to me to prepare before a trip is to practice my mindfulness and my mindset tools. So when I'm feeling doubt or fear or hearing it from someone else and it's triggering it in me, and some sort of story comes up, for example, a story about like, I'm going to be super lonely when I'm there and I'm just going to like wish I had people around or something. Instead, what I could do is, take a deep breath and like connect with my body, relax my nervous system, and then choose a different option, such as everywhere I go, there's opportunities and people that I can meet and connect with that I will enjoy spending time with, even if I'm there for just a week. So like create a new story for yourself that's supportive and empowering, and also creating what you want to experience instead of focusing on what you're fearful of experiencing. So just constantly shifting from fear and doubt into positivity and empowerment. The other thing so affirmations are great for that. And then the other thing I really suggest you do is like lean into your mindfulness tools. So if you find yourself being anxiously thinking about like the details or the trip in general, or like, is this really the right choice? Practice, for me, I do yoga. Mindfulness tools are really just like breathing, coming back to your breath. Sometimes placing a hand on my heart and one on my belly really helps me to ground into my presence. What else do I use? Fitness, any sort of exercise, meditation, noticing if I'm starting to scroll more or like lean into distractions or unhealthy habits, such as like watching TV or scrolling or like eating unhealthy, but as a coping mechanism. And then also something I suggest before any like solo travel and going into it on your own is to really get clear on what's your why. And this helped me to have sort of like a guiding light every time that I felt doubt, or even sometimes I thought about canceling altogether and like switching up my plans, or like there's so many options I can easily, my brain could go all over the place. So staying really focused on the end goal of what it is you're desiring is more easy to do when you have a why. And so just think about that. Like, what is your why? Like, what is the purpose of this? What is it that is drawing you to be there? And what is the like higher reasoning other than, it might not be logical. Most likely it won't be. So for me, it really was about my well-being. I just felt like I needed to be there, and I usually trust those feelings when it comes to travel. My heart felt really good and light there when I like tuned into the location I was going. And then the other thing is to have like a focus on what you're going there for. So for me, at first I was going there to pursue being an artist and like connect with workshops. And then I was going there to like connect with maybe like spirituality, maybe like plant medicine community. But ultimately what I knew I desired, and I learned this trick from someone I follow, Manifestation Babe. She says, listen to your secret desire. And so I was like, is there a secret desire in all of this? And it was that I really just wanted to enjoy myself, just to get there, just to eat good food, go to the beach, have my own space, because I really needed some time away from people and like to be in my own space. And if I feel inspired to draw, I'll draw, but there's like no pressure whatsoever to produce anything. Because this was also, I realized, like I had been going through a heartbreak and healing, and this was something I really desired for myself, to have 2 weeks of like rest and rejuvenation, and everyone deserves vacation. Um, and I like leaned into that decision by leaving my laptop behind. So even though I didn't know what my next plan was for how I was going to be paying for my, needs after the trip, and I wanted to continue being in Mexico past the 2 weeks, but I didn't know how, if it would be possible financially. And even with all of those thoughts, I was like, the most important thing for me is this, having this time to relax and rejuvenate my spirit, connect with myself, and treat this more like a vacation. And so I left my laptop. So that was something I did that was a little edgy, because my laptop felt like a security blanket. So you can ask yourself things like, what is it that I can do to show up for this purpose? And also packing light, especially if you're traveling by yourself, just like do it, because I've traveled a lot where I moved around a lot within short periods of time, and no matter what, I never regret packing light. So not having the laptop meant it was lighter on my shoulders with the backpack I had, and it was gonna be more comfortable to be traveling around, even just in an airport when you land, and standing in line for a long time to get through immigration can be really painful or enjoyable, depending on like what it is you're carrying. And to feel like a sense of body freedom, to be able to move about, can be really supportive to your experience. And something that for myself, because I've traveled a lot, is that I'm like leaning into like comfort travel. Like I'm done with the, like strapping everything to my back and being exhausted by the end. I really want to have a more nourishing experience, and like invest in the things that help with that, within reason, because that, whatever your budget is, you can like play around. You can also, within your budget, be open to possibilities that you can receive that comfort within the budget you have. So just stretching your mindset around budget and what's possible, I would suggest as well. Okay, so yeah. Other things I suggest is you can connect with Facebook groups. There's always Facebook groups everywhere you go, especially this area. There's a lot of people that are from like the US and Canada that are visiting there, or that they've moved there. So there's a lot of groups that may even be, within your country's, whatever country you're coming from. It might be from that community. You can check out events that are going on. Wellness things. Like for me, I know I can find a group of people I connect with if I look for wellness spaces. And yeah, for myself, I was actually really excited to just be by myself. So I didn't try too hard to find people to do things with. And I also really enjoy my company. So I wasn't really too concerned. I think the concern about long-term solutions for like meeting people and being social was more so if I were to be traveling for like a longer period of time. But I was there by myself for about a week, and then I moved to a different location within the city where I had access to meet new people, in more of a community space. So a week was just about the right amount of time for me before I started to feel ready to like, okay, time to socialize, and like I want to have a conversation with someone in English too. And yeah, so specific to Mexico, and I only have a few things I would suggest you prepare with, because I didn't travel around the country, I just stayed in one spot. So I feel like there's people can have other suggestions beyond this list, especially depending on the location you're going to. Where I was a city, and so there's a lot of things accessible there. But the thing that my sister suggested that I really am glad that I took was hydration tablets, because I did get sick, and that was the thing that actually just a few sips and my body went from dehydration symptoms like shaking to like okay, and I was able to get on the mend because of that. So I highly recommend hydration tablets or powders, some sort of reusable water bottle and a reusable bag, because if you're solo traveling and you're cooking for yourself, that can be really helpful to reduce waste, plastic waste. And the reusable water bottle is the same thing, so you can reduce waste and travel with that. And then I brought $20 to have to exchange at the airport, and that was knowing that there were ATMs available once I got there, but I didn't know my surroundings. So I knew I wanted to have cash on hand in pesos to use as soon as I got there, and get some groceries and a couple things just to establish myself a little bit. And then I asked around, I asked my Airbnb host about ATMs and what was suggested. And also I done some research about ATMs and learned that they're very accessible to use. The only thing that you really want to do is to decline the conversion rate the bank offers you. And I forgot to do that most of the trip until the end. And it's fine at the end of the day, but you do save a lot with each transaction if you decline that conversion rate. And then also I really got a lot out of YouTube videos and blog posts. So there's I'll probably link some of my favorite YouTube videos that I got for specifically Puerto Vallarta, and their recommendations. And I still at the end of the day, I made the trip my own, and so I knew there was these ideas of activities to do, but not all of them met my current desires, and also some of them were a little bit beyond my budget. But there were some great tips about getting around and food and stuff. So I highly recommend YouTube videos. It's a lot of traveling YouTubers out there. For Puerto Vallarta solo travel in general, I'm going to share about solo travel in that specific city, and then I'm going to share my personal favorites of the area and what I saw and what I experienced firsthand. Because what you see in a YouTube video does not match at all what it's like in person. Yeah, I feel like you really have to be there to know it. So I, for some reason, went there just not even doing that much research on the safety. I just somehow knew it was okay. And maybe because of the level of activity from seeing there was a lot of retreats being held there. There was a lot of wellness studios and tourism, and then also a lot of people living there. And just from the YouTube videos, it seemed people were really comfortable. And then also I read a website that said it showed statistics about safety in that city, and it basically was yeah, there's maybe some pickpocketers, but safety is not necessarily as high a concern in that city compared to in that area in general compared to other parts of Mexico. What's really cool about the area is it's surrounded by mountains, and it's this bay, so it's not as accessible to get to. It's kind of its own little section of the country. And yeah, overall, I felt really comfortable there. I do speak Spanish enough to get conversation and enough to get by. I don't know what it would have been like if I just spoke English, but yeah, I definitely leaned on my Spanish a lot, and I really enjoyed speaking it, and I felt so much more comfortable and confident, even though I knew I had maybe made some mistakes or had a huge accent, that I was just I don't know, I just felt really welcomed there by the people and by the Spanish speakers. And Had some really awesome interactions with people that were from the US or Canada or from Mexico. And that was my favorite part about solo traveling, was just the interactions that I had. Even if they were brief, they were still really meaningful and in the moment and very magical. Like, for example, one night I walked down to the Malecon area and watched the sunset, and next to me was a woman, and we just started talking, kind of because we were both enjoying the same view and the same like ocean wave that was splashing. And then we just started talking, and things like that can happen easily. People were very, very friendly there. Also, in terms of like staying out at night, I asked my Airbnb host, who's a local resident there, what she recommended, and she just said after midnight you'll just come across people who are drunk. So kind of like pretty classic things to be thoughtful of in any sort of place at night. For myself, I still wanted to be like getting home not too late, so there was just a couple nights I stayed out and walked around to the plaza, which was a few blocks away from my place. And then walking home, I only had one interaction that was like, maybe like could have been something, but it was fine. It was just because I was alone. I felt extra on edge. And yeah, so just at night, just be vigilant. You know, just kind of keep moving if someone tries to talk to you, like in any area near, if there's bars or restaurants. And then I made sure I was home by 11 for sure, like 10, 11, and that felt really good for me. In the neighborhood that I stayed at, it was like people were there was a curfew around 11, so people were winding down around then anyways. But there's a lot of people that are just, you know, outside of their apartments, chatting, talking, like in the street. So it's a pretty active, like post-sunset evening time environment in general for like people who are living there. And there's a lot of people who are visiting as tourists as well. And then also, I recommend checking out Airbnb excursions, because that can help you to get to an area you'd need a car, or, you know, maybe you'd be safer in a group. So I did that for a waterfall hike I'll talk more about later. And then also, I felt really comfortable eating by myself. There's a lot of restaurants. It just felt really easy and comfortable. It's super like open aired spaces. You can also just get like small bites to eat at the beach, or like on a bench or somewhere. The vendors were not that pushy. They just kind of, you know, a little bit checked in if you wanted to buy something a couple times and then left you alone. Yeah, and also even while walking around, I met people that gave me recommendations, people who spoke English mostly, and I think they knew that I was a visitor, and a lot of people were really like supportive and surprised when they like saw that I was traveling by myself. It's a very romantic city, so there's a lot of couples, there's a lot of families, but I still felt really okay being by myself. And I do have to say that has a lot to do with like the inner work I've done on being like comfortable with myself and loving and caring for myself. So any of those tools of like self-love definitely come in handy. And anytime that I felt a bit of insecurity, like I leaned on those mindset tricks and those shifting, how I can shift my mindset to refocus into a different direction. Yeah, so the moments that I was by myself and maybe started to feel lonely, or in general just to keep myself having some sense of like formation to my day, I leaned on some wellness things. So like I really enjoyed making myself breakfast. The place that I rented was like a really beautiful place to spend time in, so that was helpful, so that I didn't feel like I had to be out of the place in order to enjoy myself. And then also I was doing daily yoga. I had some like paint sets, so I was making some art. And Also, I highly recommend, this is something I resisted at first, but next time I know, just go for it, is like check out what's immediately in your neighborhood and start to like have conversations, just introduce yourself. Um, and that, like, people were so friendly that I immediately felt a connection with the local community. One lady even invited me over to like have wine and stuff, and enjoy chatting if I wanted to, if I needed anything. So if it's in your beliefs and in your mindset that you're looking for a place that's really supportive and nourishing, like those people and that experience can come to you, because maybe someone has had a different experience. But I think it's all about how you're approaching what it is you're creating for yourself, and being really thoughtful on the thoughts that you're listening to every day, especially leading up to the trip. Like being really thoughtful about the mindset and where your energy is focused on, and then also listening to yourself and your intuition, and continuing to trust what your heart has to say, and knowing that investing in yourself and spending time with yourself is one of the most beautiful and amazing things you can do for yourself, and is one of the most important relationships to develop. And lately, travel has offered me a lot of opportunity for change and growth. And this one did too. And I know usually people say this as well, like solo traveling, you get an opportunity to really like learn how to depend on yourself and to take care of yourself. Um, and that's kind of like why I like traveling by myself too, because I know myself well. I know like what I need. I can take care of it, and I also recommend to take it easy. Like, don't push yourself to do all the things. Let yourself take time to settle into a new location. Yeah, set yourself up for success in whatever ways that feels right for you. I'm someone who went to travel and wanted to experience like Mexico, and didn't necessarily want the resort experience. I wanted kind of like a mix of feeling what it would be like to live there, and then also going to the beach and, you know, relaxing. Um, so I'm also someone that recently has left New York City, and I'm definitely leaning into the away from the urban environment and into the more calm, quiet spaces. And knowing this, I still felt drawn to this city, and I have to say it's because there's something magical there, that it's about like the place itself, that it has this lightness that really is healing. And someone who lives there too, also said this and confirms this. He's like, yeah, there's something, whether you know it's happening or not, there's this healing that's happening in your heart and in your body when you're in this area of Mexico. Go over the neighbor first, like arrival, things to expect with transportation, neighborhoods, my recommendations on beaches, my favorite activities, the food, and just general advice. So that's like an overview of what I'll be sharing about. Um, so the neighborhoods, I thought I wanted to stay in Zona Romantica because it was so highly recommended. They were like, the streets are so cute, and there's a couple pictures I saw that did show that, but it's actually not my favorite for a place to stay because it is very active, a little bit more on the touristic side, so you see more people that are visitors or long-term staying. Um, yeah, it's a lot. It's actually a pretty tiny area in general, but it's just a lot more busy and noisy and active. And the beach also is not my favorite. I liked walking around there a lot, and I liked the food options they had, and but to stay, I needed some place that was a little bit more relaxing. And yeah, and that I found in this area just over the river from the Zona Romantica. So it's like literally like a 10-minute, 5 to 10 minute walk to like enter that area. Um, and this Gringo Gulch is just outside of, like within the range of the like only church they have there, and it's the Church of Guadalupe. And you might see a lot of pictures of it with the like this crown on the top of the church. It's very beautiful. So that was my favorite area. Anything along the Malecon is really nice because you have access to the beach, you have access to the Malecon, which at first I was like, I don't know if I like that. But being by myself, I really liked it because there was always something, I could always just go down there and walk. And like by myself, felt really comfortable. It wasn't super, it was busy with people, but it wasn't like the other areas that were like really heavy with car traffic and noise and congestion. So outside Gringo Gulch, there's like north of that, alongside the Malecon, I don't know what the neighborhood's called, but it gets super active and pretty heavy in congestion of cars and people and activity. And then beyond that, you'll see is resorts. So north of the Malecon, it's like hotel area, and it's just built up for like resort people. My recommendation for the beaches, so the Zona Romantica, when I walked through there, I was like, oh, this is not my spot. The beach itself, it's like there's not that much beach space available, and then also it's very active. So if you're like ready for like a scene, I would go there. Also, they offer a lot of like beach chair services. So if you want to be like serviced at a table with fun music, then that's definitely your place. But it was pretty crowded and pretty tight in space. So I was really grateful that I didn't end up in that area. But I really enjoyed walking through it just to like see. And walking the Malecon is really easy. It's like maybe from like end to end 30 minutes, which is a very easy thing to do for a stroll. From my neighborhood, the Gringo Gulch, to like walk the entire stretch of the Zona Romantica was about like 15 minutes. So it was really easy to get to. And then the other area is, so from the Zona Romantica like border to, then there's a stretch of the Malecon that no one really swims at because I realized there's no food service, there's also no lifeguards. And then the area that I liked the best was it's called Hotel Rosita to the north, like north of that. And then it'll end because it's like, you'll see it just ends. So that stretch of beach is where you'll find more people that are like local Mexicans, local to Puerto Vallarta, also tourists, like a mix of people who are just at the beach for the day or whatever it might be, but that was more my vibe. There was way more space. The beach was still nice. I would say the beach in Puerto Vallarta in general is not like top quality, but because there's some stones, it's like a city beach, so you're like right up to the city. But the water was still really beautiful. It was like sometimes really blue. I sometimes saw like whale's tails. So like the ocean itself still is providing like so much beauty. And yeah, and the ocean was, you could get in there and you could swim, and the water temperature was really nice. It was like not hot, not cold. It's perfect. So in that area from the Hotel Rosita north, there's a couple different things you'll experience. So there's a lot of vendors, so you just have to like let that be. There's gonna be constantly people coming up to you, but they're pretty good at respecting your nose. There's also, if you want to be eating food from the beach, there's gonna be, these are your options. Usually maybe some sort of like drink, some refreshing drink, shrimp on skewers, freshly caught oysters. I one time got banana bread. Someone sold me banana bread. What else? Those are like the main things that people sold me for food. I'm gonna tag all of these things in a map in my blog post. I'm gonna have a link to the Google Maps where I've saved all of these things. So in that Google Maps like list of saved locations, I also have saved a public bathroom. I think it's like 20 pesos to enter in that region of the beach. So that's really helpful for staying there the whole day. Then also in that area of the beach, you can still get your umbrella service. And it's 100 pesos for just an umbrella, and I think it was 75 for a chair as well. And they set it up for you wherever you want. And I asked one lady, I didn't really confirm, but the restaurants sometimes have their own like table lounge chair service, but it's like a minimum of 500 pesos, she said. But the other thing is like they're playing loud music, and I really wanted something more tranquil. So I was looking for places of the beach that were like further from people, a little bit quieter, further from like the restaurants. And yeah, I definitely was able to find that. The next beach I went to was outside of Puerto Vallarta, and that was the fishing villages that are just like a 20 to 30-minute bus ride away. It's a beautiful bus ride too. You're like driving alongside the ocean, and it's called Boca Tomatlan. That's like the drop-off zone for where this bus goes, and from there you can either take a hike, which I didn't do because I was like, I don't know where this hike starts. It just felt a little bit vague, and I didn't want to I felt like I needed to get there early, and I went there later. So anyway, so I took a water taxi. You can also take a water taxi to Playa Animas, or the one that I was recommended that I really enjoyed was Camixto Beach. So Playa Animas, when I passed it, I saw that they had restaurants and they had some chairs you could rent, and it was quieter in general, but still like there were people. And then the next location, the Camixto, was a lot more off the beaten path. Like there wasn't a clear path to get to the beach, but I saw the beach. I finally made my way, but after a couple, wrong turns. The town itself is like non-existent, but really there's like clearly people that live there, and really sweet, really beautiful. They like really maintain their street and their like little village well. When I got there, I read that there's not really food available or anything, but there was actually one little restaurant, kind of like a beachside shack restaurant, but they offered tables and lounge chairs and umbrellas. And so even though I didn't get food, I asked, and he said like you can offer a tip in exchange for using the chairs, because I brought my food. So there is something available for you if you want to have some sort of amenity at that location of Camixto. That one was really nice because the experience getting there was beautiful, like going on a water taxi. You're away from, a city beach. There was just maybe like 5 people at that location. The nature itself felt really alive and like excited to welcome you. I also saw whale tails at that location, like just so close to the shore. The water's a bit calmer. And then also a lot of people go there for surfing. So if you're into surfing, I know that's a surfing location. Then the other beach I went to was north of Puerto Vallarta. That was like a longer, maybe like 45-minute bus ride, maybe 40 minutes, to an area called Bucerias. And one of the YouTube channels that I followed talked about recommendations in Bucerias. So I was like, I want to check this out. And for myself, like, I was kind of done with being in Puerto Vallarta. Like, there's only so much you can do. And because I was kind of like leaning away from the city aspect, it was definitely taking a hit on my just my senses were getting a little overwhelmed. So Bucerias is really nice, super touristic. Like when you're getting close to the beach itself, I felt like I was in California or something. Like it was really geared towards long-term stays. Like you could tell people had real estate investments there. Like there was a lot of homes that were built for people who were looking for retirement spaces or long term, like maybe in the winter they go there, things like that. But outside of that area right by the beach, it was all people that were just, residents of Mexico, like Mexican citizens. And but I would say like the nicest area to check out was that area by where there was more tourism and people that were visiting long-term stays from outside the country. It was really beautiful to take pictures. It was a nice place to go for like a day if you wanted something to do outside of Puerto Vallarta. And they also have this art walk that was in the evening, so I couldn't join, but they had a beautiful open studio space, and I got to talk with one of the artists, and it was really gorgeous. Yeah, had great interactions. Was catcalled. Like that's like maybe the second place, but it was a very strange experience because it was like someone from probably the US driving in his car, some like older white gentleman, and he didn't know if I spoke Spanish or not. It was just a funny moment. So yeah, it feels, I felt more like an outsider actually, being there, um, and with like the population that were present there. So, but was recommended a seafood place that I enjoyed. It was called, oh, what's it called? It's not showing up. Okay, so I'll list it in my Google Maps link that's linked below in my blog post. But yeah, so that was a cute spot. I went to the beach. It kind of turned into a little bit of an overcast day. The beach was just similar to the one in Puerto Vallarta. It was, yeah, nothing special, but it was nice to get out of the area and check something else out. I took public transportation, so that was pretty easy to do. I'll be listing like those specific recommendations to get there in my blog post, but I will say that I got recommendations from a lot of people to pick up the bus from a Walmart when it actually, the best place was somewhere else. So that was like a surprise to me because I got that recommendation everywhere. And in reality, this other place, Las Glorias, was much better. So I'll have that linked in my Google Maps. But Las Glorias is the place to pick up the bus for Bucerias or anything north of Puerto Vallarta. I knew I wanted to get out of the area for a bit, and I found this awesome waterfall hike that was just like 20-minute ride north of or south of Puerto Vallarta, led by a local guy. He's like born and raised in the area. He also has a lot of great recommendations as a surfer and someone who hikes a lot. So I'll be linking that recommendation for that tour in my blog post. And that was nice. It was pretty simple. It was actually pretty difficult because we were like hopping along these river stones, and in the end I just got my shoes wet. I was like trying so hard not to, but it happened. For me, I really love waterfalls, and even though there was like this, it wasn't like the most epic waterfall I've ever seen, it was still really enjoyable to swim in the water and get out of the area. And then also that waterfall, there was a bunch of fish that were like super comfortable. They weren't moving. So it was like I was having this real life, like aquatic, what's it called? Like a fish tank moment where they were nibbling my feet. They were like right there. And it was pretty amazing. And it was fun just to get out I also met a couple people that were in the group. So that was really nice because I could, talk to some new folks. And then I had the rest of the day to do something for myself. After the waterfall hike, I went to an ecstatic dance cacao ceremony. And it was at this place called Terra Noble Healing Center. Going to the Camixto beach was so fun, and I highly recommend some sort of excursion like that. You can really easily get to it on your own. A lot of like non-locals are traveling as well, if that makes you feel a little bit safer or more like comfortable. They're traveling via the local system as well. And I'm linking the bus stop of where to pick that bus up. The water taxi was, you can expect to pay, I think it was like 110 one way, so like 220, 200 pesos round trip for the water taxi from Boca Tomatlan to Camixto. The other thing was that there was a couple overcast days. So on a rainy day, I went out, and it was kind of a gloomy day. It was a day that it was like a bit of a low point for myself. Just kind of like, I don't know, just kind of bummed that I couldn't go to the beach, and feeling restless, and like I didn't really have something that I was excited about doing. But I ended up going to, there's a lot of art galleries in this city. So I went to an art gallery, checked it out, and then I went and saw this bakery because I really wanted to try Mexican bakery foods. I really enjoyed trying. You could smell the baked goods as soon as you stepped through, like as soon as you got to the door, and it smelled so good. And I never tried the classic bread with that topping on it from Mexico, so I was excited to try some Mexican pastries. And this one was really good. And then also I discovered that the beach is so beautiful on an overcast, sort of drizzly day. The area of the Zona Romantica that I was saying was so packed that day, was so quiet and peaceful. And the gorgeous thing is that you get a full view of the bay from Puerto Vallarta. Like you can see it end to end, and it's a really beautiful view of the sky and like the horizon and the clouds, and the colors are just really gorgeous to see. And it just felt like really good that day. So on a like cloudy day, try out the beach. That is something I would recommend. The other place that I would recommend is I decided to take myself out on a date. And this is something you can do for yourself when you're traveling by yourself. Like make it something special. And I followed my intuition, and I hadn't been down this road from my Airbnb yet. And so I went down it and found this was like the most romantic, beautiful views and restaurants of, I think, the whole area. And it overlooks the church of Guadalupe, which has this really beautiful crown structure at the top, and the way the sun sets over it is really beautiful. And then also from that point you can see the rooftops, and it actually felt very European and like Italian or Spanish. But so there's the restaurant that is like a full service dining restaurant you need a reservation for. If you're there as a couple, like with people, I would recommend that. But on my own, there was this perfect table that had actually the best view. You can order just like a drink from the bar or a snack from the bar and still get the view. And actually where I was sitting was where people were coming up and taking like so many photos. And one lady was so kind, she like suggested and offered to take a photo of me. And that was just a really nice thing to experience, and like be in this incredibly romantic place with myself. The sunset from there is gorgeous. I forgot if I mentioned that. The other thing I recommend is, the art galleries. There's a lot. There's this place called Puerto Vallarta, so it's like art, and it's a museum, also a place they host workshops. They have a lot of like openings for galleries, and they also have art shops. So if you want to get some art supplies, I would go there. Thursdays and Sundays in the Plaza de Armas, which is right below the church, they have in the evenings like music and food vendors, and it is the most cute and adorable and like special spot to be, especially if you want to feel like you're really experiencing life there as like from a non-touristic side, like a local resident, because there's like people that are showing up that live in that area. The church itself is gorgeous, like to walk in, to check it out. I saw a quinceañera happen next to me, like she was like walking up into the church, and I just sat in for a little bit. So that little neighborhood of the Gringo Gulch was just so beautiful. And I got so many really nourishing experiences there. Then also in general, the Malecon I recommend as an activity. Like in the evening, I could just walk down there on my own, walk the stretch, and enjoy myself, watch the sunset. During the day, I could do the same thing. Yeah, so the Malecon is another recommendation. So I was staying within like a $29 US dollar budget a day. Kind of went out of that a little bit here and there, but I really wanted to find like, just like a really simple taco spot. And so my like first couple of days I was spending more time in the Zona Romantica and couldn't really find that. But I did find this one lady. She made some really yummy tacos, and they were, I would say you can find like the lowest price point for a taco is 25 pesos, so about $1.50. And you can have more than that too. She has like a whole plate. I felt good eating the food from her. Like I didn't have any issues in terms of digestion. I did eventually get sick, but I don't know what it's from. I can't say it's from anything specific. I think it was I was dehydrated and had a lot of dairy. Like I forgot, I had a latte and forgot that I don't usually drink milk, and I think it was a combination of things. But I don't think it was from the taco lady. So I'm tagging like the location on the map of where you can get that. And then you can take it to the beach and have the food there. Then on the other taco spot I really enjoyed because I really wanted to have fish tacos. That was also on my list. And this lady is in the area of the beach that I recommended as like my favorite spot. I'll tag that too, but it's called, I think like Rosita something. I'll list the name in the Google Maps list of saved locations. In general, the Zona Romantica has, I think, the best food options. In general, like you can easily find things there. Lots of restaurants, bars, places for breakfast, smoothie shops, very much like catered towards like a foreigner. And then also there is still a lot of food options outside the Malecon. It's like a stretch of a street that's pretty active and busy. You'll find a lot of food there too. I really recommend this place called Pulpa PV, and they had smoothie bowls that were so good to bring to the beach and to like rehydrate yourself, to get that good vitamins in. It was very refreshing, and that one was actually priced lower than other places I had seen. So like within a budget, it was 110 pesos, which I was really like happy about for myself, and they only took cash. But the other place I recommend was just a couple blocks from my Airbnb, was a place in the Gringo Gulch called Planeta Vegetariana, and it's basically all you can eat buffet of vegetarian food, which is really good if you, like at the time that I ate there, I had been like, hadn't eaten a lot, and so I was able to like get my veggies, get my like all of my nutrients. They had really delicious specialty drinks of like guanabana, I think, juice, and then they had like special tea. It looks a little like home cooked from the outside, but the food is like really good when you eat it, and it's just kind of like getting all your calories and all your nutrients in at once. So if you're like really hungry and vegetarian, it was, I think, 220 pesos for it. They took cash only as well, and they give you a little dessert. So I really enjoyed that. Another place I recommend is called Gabby's Restaurant. I didn't get to go for like sitting in, but I got some of their soup. And the first day I was like taking care of my head cold. But when I got there, it seemed pretty popular, and it seemed like people needed reservations. So recommend that. And it seemed like I read up the story about the owner and the founder, and it was really sweet. And I can tell that they seem to have really good food. Also, the soup I had was really good. Like I said, the Plaza de Armas in front of the Iglesia always has something going on. So there I got to eat like fresh churros that were really yummy, freshly fried. I tried some tacos. They had this bread, like flatbread tortilla thing with chicken on it and sauce, although I think that might have been too much for me and part of why I got sick. But yeah, just like try not to overeat if your tummy is telling you that. They also had they just had a bunch of great options, like really yummy food. So in the evening, the Malecon has a lot of food. They have something interesting I saw is that people buy like store-bought cakes and sell it under the different tents. So one day I went down there and I was like craving something sweet, and I got a slice of like a store-bought chocolate cake. So that was really fun. They also have crepes. They have this like thing that they make with Doritos. They also have like fruits, a lot of ice cream options, and there's probably a couple other things that I'm forgetting, but food is down there. Then I found a good coffee shop that I really wanted to experience, like a nice cup of coffee, because I had tried coffee from like a restaurant I went to for breakfast, but it just didn't wow me, and I wanted like a really solid thing. So this place, Cafe de Oro or Cafe Oro Verde, was really I recommend it. It's actually I met the woman that owns it. It's her and her husband. She's from she's from Seattle. Don't know where he's from, but they started this coffee roasting company, and they also have like a coffee shop there. The latte I had was really delicious. For groceries, there's a couple markets, like little ones, and I thought I'd find something bigger, but they're really like the best you can find. So in the Gringo Gulch area, there's like maybe one or two little markets. I'll tag in the Google Maps, and maybe a couple things in Zona Romantica. North of that zone, the best option is a place called Casa Ley, and it's like a full-on grocery store. But still, they somehow don't have all the best options for like produce. Produce options were a little hit or miss for me, but it was nice to have something to cook for myself, just so I wasn't just still constantly eating like, beans and rice and tacos, because my digestion definitely needed some more balance to that. The other thing that I totally forgot to talk about in activities, so I'll cut this in for that, is the Saturday farmers market is really fun. They also have food there. So if you're wanting to, they had so many options. They had like tamales, they had empanadas, they had a lot of Asian cuisine, they had paella. They also had this really great freshly juiced juices. So I had like a beet orange juice. So if you want to get, some of that in, like the vitamins and something refreshing. They sold like bagels. They had different breads, a lot of little like market items. They also had performances, so someone was like playing music. And yeah, the Saturday market goes until 2 p.m. and it's a really fun place to go check out and walk around. I feel like I actually covered everything, but the other thing is, if you don't have access to filtered bottled water, and I really wanted to eliminate buying a bunch of bottles of water because of like the plastic, and not really sure if they do recycle. It seemed like no. So I boiled water, and that was totally fine. It had a little funky taste, but you can boil water and that is actually clean for you to drink. So I did that. Usually I made a system for myself. I boiled it and then I let it cool down, and then I filled up a bottle of water, an empty bottle that I had to use. And then I also, just to be extra safe, I felt like needing to do this. I don't know if it helped, but I used the filtered boiled water to like brush my teeth with. And then the second place I went to had, like, they offered the big jugs of water, so I didn't have to boil it. But that's something that I would recommend if you need clean water and don't have access to a grocery store or don't want to go out there and get something. You can just boil it. Okay, so I think that's everything. I hope you enjoyed this video. I covered everything, and then also I talk a lot more about the mindset and the energetics of traveling and guiding yourself to the destination on my blog post. You'll also see a lot more content related to wellness in general in my channel, decoration tips for your home, and overall like lifestyle advice for someone who like really values personal development, fostering a healthy well-being, and going after like what lights them up. For me, that's usually something creative, some sort of creative expression. You'll also find meditations on my channel, and as I travel, I'll just keep sharing about it. So you're welcome to subscribe if you want to keep in touch, and then otherwise, invite you to like the channel, like the video, and I would really appreciate any support, sharing as well. I hope you got a lot out of this, and that I can help you on your next journey, especially if you're going to Puerto Vallarta. I highly recommend, even though the city itself was a lot for me, there's something so special about that place. Like, I truly fell in love with it, especially the location that I got for my first Airbnb was gorgeous. And I really did, in the end, feel like my heart was lifted and lighter and rejuvenated. And also seeing whale's tails, like, from the beach side is just the most amazing thing to experience. For me, that was the first time I experienced that.